We now know that tens of thousands of fully AI generated music tracks are dropping into music streaming services every single day. These are built for passive listening. Most fans and listeners can't really tell the difference. Most streaming services don't really seem in a rush to figure this out. And artists, they've been waving red flags all through the year about consent and compensation and creativity. A lot of fans don't really know what's going on, and the rest are kind of left shaking their head in bafflement. A very human industry is being shaped by non human volume. The color bar traced this through the year, and it really seems like music's next frontier is more like music's next flood. So in October, streaming service Deezer said they receive over 50,000 fully AI generated tracks a day to their streaming service, over about 34% of all the tracks that they receive. Just back in January, I was writing about how Deezer had come up with a new tool to detect AI generated tracks, and they said around 10,000 were delivered a day. Let that sink in. In a few months, it has gone from 10,000 to 50,000 tracks a day. That's about 1 million tracks in barely 3 weeks. Note, Deezer is still the only streaming service that explicitly labels all fully generated AI tracks. Now, this came along with the results of a survey across 8 countries and 9,000 music listeners. 97% of those surveyed could not tell the difference between an AI generated track and a human track. 45% would like to filter out 100% AI generated music from their platforms. Maybe more hearteningly, 80% agree that such music should be clearly labeled, while 73% want to be told if their streaming service is recommending AI generated music to them. And amazingly, I am still finding myself having conversations about, is AI generated music really a thing? Oh, it became a thing and it's going on to become many more things. It's been quite the year for generative AI and music, where the conversation has become less abstract and it's gone beyond just contracts and lawyers, but also started entering playlists and charts. I guess the tone was set early in the year when I had to recover from this stunning take from Mikey Schulman, who is the CEO of the leading generative AI music company, Suno, who felt that musicians don't enjoy creating music anymore. He said, it's not really enjoyable to make music now. The majority of people don't enjoy the majority of the time they spend making music. Comparing his company's ambitions to a video game, in his ideal world, you would kind of half play, half create music the same way you kind of half play Fortnite while you have your friend chatting in your ear. And this comes from a company that, quote, has a deep love and respect for music. As musicians around the world probably gagged, his message was clear. Making music is tedious and there's a lot of drudgery. Let the machines handle it. In February, over 1,000 artists in the UK released a protest album called Is This What We Really Want? It was an album of silence. A clever metaphor, I suppose, for what the proposed UK copyright laws would do, hollow out the creative and music community. It was supported by the likes of Annie Lennox, Riz Ahmed, Hans Zimmer, Kate Bush, and a whole lot of others. A different and very welcome view came from outside the Western bubble, where African artists seem to be grappling with the same sort of a conflict between excitement and concern. There's excitement around the creative opportunities that might come from generative AI, but there's also concern, one around the systemic biases that are in all of these models, predicated on largely Western training data, and maybe more importantly about how this kind of music generation and appropriation could lead to an erosion of African music identity across the continent. But success beckoned AI music. One of the stranger episodes across the year was a folk rock band that mysteriously appeared on Spotify, swept its way into playlist placements, and garnered more than 1 million monthly users in virtually no time. This was the Velvet Sundown, which had folk rock aesthetics, rapid growth, but a profile that didn't quite add up. Eventually, of course, they revealed themselves as a synthetic music project, but it was a description masked in all sorts of artistic gibberish and talk about pushing the edges and finding new boundaries. As The Atlantic said at the time, what may now be the most successful AI group on Spotify is merely profoundly and disturbingly innocuous. In that sense, it signifies the fate of music that is streamed online and then imbibed while one drives, cooks, cleans, works, exercises, or does any other prosaic act. Close on its heels over in India, there was Trilok, an AI-generated music band that wanted to pair spiritual tradition with contemporary rock, or if you prefer, India's sonic past reassembled for a future audience. Trilok later even released a music video which looked like a Me Too version of a Glass Beams music video. But interestingly, this had real humans wearing masks to represent the non existent digital personas of the generated AI music built by an AI generated music band. Whew. In a region overflowing with talent and with such music already present in the market, the question is, why would you do this? And the answer, unfortunately, pretty much boils down to just one symbol.
Sound of this band is pretty standard Carnatic rock fusion fare. You do know we have real bands like this that exist, right? A very pertinent question about all of this. Truly, who is this for? And yep, this is probably the most corporate driven shit I've ever seen.
But the synthetic success continued. We had Zania Monet, an AI generated artist who signed a $3 million deal. Now, she's the product of a poet, Delisha Jones, in Mississippi, who used her words and combined them with Suno to create a coherent music persona, if you will. There was also Breaking Rust, a AI generated country cowboy music artist, and both of these made it to some obscure Billboard music charts. For me, the instinctive recoil still remains. Music is emotional resonance for me. It is the product of someone's lived experience, their joy, their grief, their sorrow, their weird in-betweens, or something even much more trivial they might have experienced, but real. If this is suddenly created from some sort of optimization loop, it seems to me opportunistic and hollow and not something I need in my life. But if the tunes are your kind of thing and you like the way they sound, are you okay with them playing in your ear or in your living room? Or does the provenance, where they come from, does that matter? Listen, wherever you might stand on this, what is become extremely clear through this year is that we have the silhouette of a new ecosystem where humans as the center of music creation are not the default anymore. The thing is, a lot of music is consumed passively, much like radio, through playlists and suggestions or recommendations. And that's where AI generated music has an amazing ability to just slot right in. Look up things like perfect fit playlists and ghost artist supply pipelines, which I've written about, and you'll see how the whole ecosystem of generative AI music really finds its place in the streaming era. Spotify's response to this was, I have to say, a bit underwhelming. They did announce some measures around AI generated music, but it largely transferred the onus onto the providers, the artists, to just, hey, label your music if you used AI, thank you very much. There was also the whole saga with Universal Music and Udio, another generative AI music platform, where it went from lawsuit to being morphed into a partnership with a very 2025 outcome, I suppose, which was a walled garden of AI content. So it's kind of like a new service where Udio does have access to Universal Music Catalog, but only with artist opt-in. The key thing, the users cannot download or export the music they create or whatever they recreate. And this has skewed outrage, of course, because it represents the kind of internet user which all of us are, frankly, at some point of time, which is, hey, I am entitled and I have the right to free derivative content on the internet. Back to Suno, Warner Music found some sort of a settlement with Suno. Again, a kind of agreement and partnership with catalog music being allowed with artist opt-in, but I'm not really clear and I can't tell what it means for all the training data that has already been done or modeled based off existing music catalogs. Suno for its part represents that content and engagement play that much of tech and entertainment has become solely about. In a look at its investor deck, which Billboard somehow got hands on, it says that Suno can create the equivalent of the entire Spotify catalog of music in a matter of 2 weeks. Spotify has, I don't know, over a century's worth of music on it. And now a generative AI music service can create the equivalent of that, purely in terms of volume, in the matter of weeks. Why? It's just volume as virtue. As Jeffrey Anthony said on his lovely Medium post, AI produces content at volumes and speeds no human can match, and crucially, it produces content that people will accept as real enough to give their attention to. That's the breakthrough. Not that AI makes better music, but that it makes acceptable music at an unlimited scale. Which brings us back to Deezer's numbers, from a daily 10,000 AI generated tracks in January to 50,000 a day in October, a third of their content every day. We don't know the similar numbers for Spotify or Apple Music, but it's highly likely they're very much in the same ballpark. And most listeners can't tell the difference. They're not meant to. Platforms seem happy with quantity over clarity, and listeners will just hum along obliviously. 80% of listeners want AI music to be clearly labeled, and 73% want to know if their platform is pushing via its algorithms any AI content onto them. I do hope this is representative of a wider and deeper preference for some conscious listening. We are way past the question, can machines make songs? We are wading deep in who benefits, who is compensated, who is exploited, who is erased, and who is simply flooded, you and me. But maybe that question is actually much simpler, as lots of fans are talking about what is really the need for this, and they're wondering who asked for it?